Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, so sorry this Black Clover video is coming out so late. My schedule's just been kind of fucked up this past week, but let's not even talk about that right now because we have a very hype chapter to talk about. Like, seriously, what happens at the end of this chapter with Asta and is so fucking hype, and I could not wait to talk about it. So let's just jump right into what happens. Okay, so we start the chapter off with Godair and Revchi checking in with them, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's been so long since we've seen them, and they played such an unimportant role in this entire arc altogether that I forgot they were even part of it. Like, I'm not even sure if this is a dark castle that they're in when we see them in the beginning of the chapter. I'm assuming it is because of the fact that the demon's magic is seemingly around them, and Godair's permutation magic is the only thing that's keeping them from being affected by it. Which, honestly, I just don't care. I'm finding it very hard to care about these two characters right now with everything that's going on. And honestly, the only reason why I'm even mentioning them in the beginning of this video is because when Tabata originally showed that the two of them were part of this arc and that they were escaping, I thought this was just him setting up that later on in the series they would come back as villains. That since they were planning on getting their revenge, they would leave. We set up them escaping in this arc, and then later on, maybe like 2, 3, 4 arcs from now, we will see them come back and try to get their revenge against everyone else. But because of the fact that he brought them back up here, and he mentioned the fact that Godair's permutation magic is effective, or at least able to keep them from being affected by the demon's magic, I have the sneaking suspicion that he's going to actually try to make the two of them important to the ending of this arc, which I am not on. I'm just not on board with. I'm not on board with this whole fact of Godair and Revchi being a part of the arc and being important in the fight against the demon, just because of the fact that they're such unimportant, unenthusiastic characters that I don't really care about, and we already have so many characters involved in this arc that aren't even doing anything right now. Like, we got all the people who are fighting against the demon right now. We still have Noel and Jack, who are still fighting Fauna for some reason, even though we kind of put to bed the whole war between the humans and the elves. We have Fugoyan, who's off somewhere. Mario Leona, who's still off somewhere. We have all the Black Bulls and all the other Magic Knights who are outside fighting the elves still. And on top of that, we still have Vados and Rades, who are out there doing something, who are technically major characters in this arc because they're inside the Dark Castle with them, but aren't doing anything. Like, the last time we saw them, they were hiding from the Dark Elf version of Patry and the Demon, and we have not seen them be active in this arc since. So we got so many characters going on right now. There's so many loose plot threads, so many characters active inside the Dark Castle alone, that these two are not necessary, and they just kind of make it even more of a clutter. We also get to check in with Yami and Charlotte in the beginning of this chapter, and it's actually kind of cool because we see that Charlotte actually fully healed Yami's arm, and we see that the area around them is completely destroyed because of the witch's new technique that he used at the end of the last chapter. It completely destroyed the area around them, even getting rid of the demon's magic that was surrounding them, that Yami had to use his dark magic to basically hold off. So the two of them are kind of talking, and they're trying to plan out exactly when they're going to go back to the fight, because even though Yami is healed now, he realizes that his arm's only healed enough so they can only use one more dark dimensional slash. So he wants to plan it out because he knows if he only has one attack, as soon as he uses that one attack, him and Charlotte are pretty much useless in the fight. And you know what? I actually really dig this moment because this kind of sets up Yami being really important for the ending of this arc. I suspect because of the way they played it off in this chapter, with Yami saying we gotta decide when we rejoin the fight, like we gotta plan that out. I think that means that Yami is gonna be the one to have the decisive blow on the demon. Alright, so here's what I think is gonna end up happening. I think that what Tabata is setting up is that there's gonna be a situation where, like how in the last chapter, Witch was able to break the demon down to only his heart being remaining, and then the demon uses recovery magic to recover himself by creating a mouth on his heart and then saying the word. I'm guessing that something similar is going to happen to that, where they kind of bring the demon down to his heart or like an eye or some very small part of him, or some little part of him still going to be alive, and he's going to try to use his recovery magic. Just when everyone else is exhausted, they think they won, and then he comes back at the end to use his recovery magic again. And I'm guessing that at that moment is when Yami and Charlotte will re-enter the fight, and Yami will use his last dark dimensional slash in order to kill the demon finally, giving Yami the final blow on the demon. And if my theory is correct, this could possibly lead to Yami ended up becoming the first or the next Magic Emperor. Although there is also the possibility that Yami's not actually going to rejoin the fight at all. It could be a situation where Asta, Lumiere, Patry, and Lich all defeat the demon themselves, but in the last moment, right before the demon dies, he uses his magic to basically envelop the entire area they're in with that magic, like that eating magic thing that he's been using this entire arc, or this, like these past few chapters, and he's going to use that to try to kill them off. And that's when Yami and Charlotte will jump in and use Yami's Dark Dimensional Slash, since the Dark Castle is technically not in the same dimension as the regular world. Probably use his Dark Dimensional Slash to cut their way out of there so that they can escape. Either way, Yami's setting up to be a very important character to the rest of this arc, especially since we already know that he is actually a major factor in the fight against the demon, since his dark magic is very effective against it, which we still don't have an explanation as to why that is. I'm hoping we get that in the next few chapters, or at least when we next see Yami, we'll finally figure out exactly why his dark magic is effective against the demon. I mean, it's understandable why Asta's anti-magic is effective against the demon, since his body is presumably made up completely of mana. But when it comes to Yami, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or at least, as far as I can tell, it doesn't make sense. And I'm just hoping we get an explanation at some point as to why it's happening this way. We also check in with Patry for a little bit, and it's not really important. It's just basically him kind of accepting the fact that he's now a Dark Elf and that he can't really use his grimoire the way he wanted to anymore. So he has to use the demonic elf magic now, which is basically just him accepting the fact that he's the Dark Elf. That's literally all that his part of the chapter comes down to. Okay, so the rest of the chapter pretty much fully focuses on Asta, and he, after seeing what Lich did with his previous sword in the last chapter, Asta is still trying to tap into like some hidden potential that his Demon Slayer sword might have. And we see in the beginning of the chapter that he's just like summoning all this dark anti-magic, or like, yeah, all this anti-magic from inside of him. And basically, alright, first off, it looks like he's trying to do his own version of the Getsuga Tensho from Bleach. But anyway, the anti-magic kind of just like overpowers him and makes him lose even more control of his black form. Because as we already know, his black form is pretty much just like a magic sequence missile, where he doesn't really have full control over it. It just kind of attacks magic like automatically. And now that he's even more enveloped in dark magic or anti-magic, it just goes wild. Like initially, he goes right after the demon, like the anti-magic tries to attack the demon, ends up breaking through the trident that the demon's been using for the past 2 chapters, and does some damage. But he quickly loses even more control of it. The Lumiere tries to jump in and help him out, and Asta just ends up smacking him away with his sword, which causes Lumiere actually some damage. Like he gets sent flying into the side, like into a wall. Sakurai has to go and check up on them, and he basically reveals that because of that attack, he's kind of out of the fight for the next few minutes because he can't use his magic anymore. And you know, speaking of Lumiere, did anyone else find it kind of interesting that Lumiere seemingly like he never says anything. He never like openly says anything that could actually hint towards this. But the way Lumiere was kind of acting in this chapter, the way he rushed Asta aside like to help him out automatically, even though he doesn't even know Asta, and the way he was talking about Asta and he had so much faith in Asta and his abilities, it kind of seemed like Lumiere had like, it was kind of like Tabata was trying to hint that Lumiere might have some kind of connection to Asta, which I know there's theories out there that Asta might be like some kind of like descendant or reincarnation of Lumiere, or that Asta is connected to him, or he's like the son of Lich or some way. I know those theories are out there. I don't actually myself believe in those theories. I don't think they're right. But the way that Lumiere has been acting towards Asta, and like from when he was first introduced to him, and the way he's been acting in this chapter, it kind of does seem like that maybe there is some kind of connection. Like maybe there is a little bit of truth to those theories out there. Again, I don't really believe those theories, but there could be some truth to them. I mean, like, how crazy would it be if we end up finding out later on that Asta, and this is the reason why Sakurai was so attached to him, and we end up finding out that Asta is actually just the reincarnation of Lumiere. Like, maybe somehow, some way, even though he was sealed in stone, his soul still somehow ended up dying off and, like, getting reincarnated into Asta. But anyway, we get to the end of the chapter, and we see Asta is still struggling to control his new anti-magic, or, like, his overpowering anti-magic. Lich and Patry are still struggling against the demon. Lumiere's still out of fight, and Sakurai is basically telling him, hey, look, give me a chance, I'll go over to Asta, I will seal away enough of the anti-magic inside of him, or that he's letting out, so they can control it again to some extent. And this is when we actually see Lumiere, and like I said, this is showing like some kind of connection or some kind of concern from Lumiere's side to Asta. But basically, he says, don't do it, because he's fine. Like, and this is what we see, then this is the most hype part of the chapter. We see in this moment, come up to Asta, basically berate him like, hey, really? Is this what the next Magic Emperor is going to look like? Like, do you really think you're going to become a Magic Emperor being this weak and out of control with your own powers? And then after Asta gets his ass kicked verbally by Yuno for a little bit, we see the two of them reveal that they both have brand new swords. Well, I mean, Yuno's sword is actually brand new. I don't think we've ever seen Yuno actually use this technique. It's actually, he ends up calling the sword the Spirit of Zephyr, and it actually looks really decent. I actually do really like the design of the sword. And then we actually check out Asta's sword, and it's just an anti-magic upgraded version of his Demon Slayer sword. Like, it just seems like he kind of changed the design of his Demon Slayer sword, kind of like enveloped it in anti-magic, but it still looks very badass. And it seemingly, now that he has this, like, now that he used all that like extra anti-magic that he was exerting on the sword, it seems like, or at least it implies at the end of the chapter, that he now has fully control of his black form, which would be actually really interesting, because the biggest problem I've had with Asta's black form is the fact that he can't control it. The fact that it's just basically a magic seeking missile, and that it just automatically attacks magic, and when magic's around, he completely loses control of it. But if this actually does now give him full control of it, then Asta's just now even more powerful and even more of a badass character. In fact, the reason why I've always thought that Asta wasn't yet at captain level was a major part of that problem I had was the fact that he couldn't control his form. But if he actually can control it now, then I think he might actually be not at captain level, but he is very close to it at this point. You know, I want to get your guys' opinions on this. Which sword that gets revealed in the chapter do you think is better? Do you like Asta's sword better, or do you like Yuno's? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm personally leaning towards Yuno's design better than Asta's, just because of the fact that I've never been a big fan of like the big buster type of swords, and the fact that Yuno, even though his hilt is very buster sword like, the rest of his blade is still pretty cool. It's pretty slim. I actually do like that design a lot more than Asta's. But at the same time, they're still both really cool, and they're like really hype designs, and I actually can't wait to see what ends up happening in the next chapter. But let me know what happens, what you guys think about that, like what you guys think about the designs in this chapter. And you know what, speaking of Yuno's sword real quick, before I end the video, I'm wondering what's going to end up happening with his new sword now, because yeah, this is a hype reveal that he has a brand new technique that he just activates out of nowhere, which, by the way, before I even get into what I was about to say, the dialogue that Lumiere and Sekiri were having right before that part, like right before the reveal of the two swords, is kind of confusing, because seemingly they're still talking about Asta, but Lumiere mentions the fact that he gathered the magic in the air and condensed it into his new attack, or like his new ability. And literally right after he says that, we see a picture of Yuno with his brand new sword. Now, assumedly he's still talking about Asta, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense when you think about the dialogue. And again, this isn't the official translation, but when you look at the dialogue, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because Asta's sword that he's currently using, and that actually has his new upgrade, doesn't have the ability to absorb magic. Like, it would be one thing if he was using the Demon Dweller sword, which we actually know does have the ability to absorb magic, like basically from the people around him. So if his dialogue would make sense if Asta was using that sword. But because it's the Demon Slayer sword, it doesn't really make that much sense. But it does make sense when he's talking about Yuno, because he says Yuno has wind magic. He would be able to, basically, assumedly take the mana and the magic from the air and transform it into his own brand new blade. We literally get to see like a small panel at the very last page where the demon actually looks a little bit worried by the new sword that Asta has. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, I'm wondering what's going to happen with Yuno in the next chapter, because even though Yuno does have this brand new sword, he hasn't been, like, his wind magic still hasn't been effective against the demon as anything but support. So I'm wondering, is this sword going to make a difference? Like, is this brand new sword actually going to be useful against the demon and actually be able to do damage to it? Or is he still going to be playing that kind of support role to Asta and everyone else? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about that. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And follow me on Twitter @MangaArchives. But that's it for the video, guys, and I'll catch you later. Peace.